This is episode 371 of Jumble Think.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Jumble Think, where we interview dreamers, makers, innovators, and influencers all about their journey of turning dreams and ideas into reality. Along the way, we're going to share some tips on how you can turn your own dreams and ideas into reality too. Our guest on today's show is Jon Foreman. More about Jon in a moment. Whether you're a new listener or a longtime fan, if you've never subscribed to Jumble Think, now's the time to do it. Head on over to wherever you listen to podcasts, search for Jumble Think, and click that magical subscribe button. To make it even easier, if you head on over to jumblethink.com, you'll find links to Apple Podcasts, Pandora, Spotify, and more. So head on over to wherever you listen to your shows and subscribe to Jumble Think. Now let's join today's conversation. Hey there, friends. Welcome to Jumble Think. My name is Michael Woodward. I am your host. We have a really cool conversation lined up for you in a moment. Before we do that, I have an announcement that I am so excited to share with you. Starting on this episode and with more episodes in the future, you're not only going to be able to check out the show in audio format, you're also going to be able to see video clips and also full interviews in video format. We're so excited to let you not only listen, but also to watch and join the conversation. You're going to be able to see these clips on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And you're also going to be able to see the full interviews on YouTube. So if you haven't subscribed to Jumble Think on YouTube, you should go over and do that right now. We've got a really cool conversation lined up for you today with Jon Foreman. I've been a big fan of his band Switchfoot, and Switchfoot has been doing something really fun during COVID called the Fantastic Not Traveling Music Show. They have an upcoming live streaming event January 31st, streaming live from Petco Park. It's going to be a really cool event. And beyond that, Jon also has a brand new solo album called Departures coming out February 12th. The first 3 songs are out now, and I'm loving them. I think you're going to love them too. You can check out the upcoming concerts while you listen to this show by going to switchfoot.com. And you can check out Jon's new album by listening in wherever you listen to songs, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to that. And you can also check him out at jonforeman.com. Well, let's go ahead and join today's conversation with our guest, Jon Foreman. Hey, Jon, thanks so much for joining us on Jumble Think.
Thank you for having me.
I'm super excited about some of the things that Switchfoot's doing, but I'm also really excited about this new project that you're launching. So we got a lot to talk about today.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm excited to talk about it. I'm always excited to talk about music.
You know, I mentioned you have a new album coming out. It is called Departures. It comes out February 12th. Tell us a little bit about the album.
So, Departures is an odd title because I haven't been on a plane in a long time. And yet I feel like this year was a complete departure for most of us. Yeah. And I feel like these songs were all, even if they weren't written during this particular time period, they feel like the themes that are represented in Departures are all responding to the journey that I've been on this past year, and so questions, thoughts, concerns, for me, I tend to just put them all in my songs, and that's where this record came from.
The 3 songs that are out, I've listened to them over and over again. You've got Education, Red and Gold, Jesus, I Have Doubts. Are those good markers for what people can expect for the rest of the album?
Yes. And it's also, it's a pretty diverse record. There is a track on there that sounds like it could be, maybe for a Lord of the Rings action sequence, a lot of strings. And there's a track with Lauren Daigle that's beautiful that we wrote together. I love that song. Her voice is amazing. And then there's also a song with Madison Cunningham, who is one of my favorite guitar players. She is incredible. She's from LA. I think my hope in reaching outside of just my guitar is, with other voices and other instruments is, for me, music is this reminder that the world is bigger than just my studio or whatever four walls I've been hunkered down in for the year. So that, it's a little bit more diverse maybe than those three songs, but I think those three songs are a good representation of maybe the trajectory of where it's headed.
When I was researching the album, the words loss and lament came up, and lament is one of those things from the psalmist that I think that the church and humanity as a whole really struggles with, like this question of saying, is it okay to question, where are you? And Jesus, I have doubts. I mean, you just go right at it. You're just there saying, this stuff's going on. How do I reconcile it? So talk to us a little bit about that journey as you're going through loss in different seasons, bringing this album together, bringing those songs in, bringing the lament, and was it cathartic for you? Was it a place where you were able to find answers along that journey, or was it you're still kind of questioning what's going on?
Yeah, I wonder, and here's a question in response. I wonder if you ever reach a point where you have no more questions. I wonder if that is a place that you would reach. And then my next thought is that a healthy place for a human to be, to have no more questions? I find that faith and doubt are incredibly useful words for this journey that I'm on. And I feel like to say that I have all the answers is a lie.
Yeah.
And yet to say that I do not believe in my maker is also a lie. So I'm in this middle ground where I'm wrestling with what it means to have hope, what it means to persevere in a year of death, and to try and bring joy to my family, bring food home to my family, all these real, tangible things, even within the ethereal elements of faith and doubt, So, I think for me, I found years ago that there's a safety in a song that I can find nowhere else. I can sing a song about God, girls, sex, fear, faith, doubt, anything, and in front of thousands of people, and feel totally fine. And yet I can't even have that conversation with a friend, So I take full advantage of that and put a lot into my lyrics.
Now, 11 albums for Switchfoot. You have numerous EPs and Departure as solo projects. There's a lot that you've written, a lot that you've done, a lot that you've created. We look at musicians and you always hear sophomore slump. You always hear all of these different terms about they're running dry for ideas and creativity in the lyrics that they write. And yet I listen to your music today as I listened back in 1996, 97. And I feel like there's always a freshness to the lyric. Like your craft isn't getting old to you. Is it because of that place where you feel the safety in the song that you feel like you can go back to it and continue to write and continue to voice the questions, the moments of turmoil, the moments of joy, the moments of celebration? Is that the place that, because of that, it brings the freshness of lyric, the freshness of music that others seem to run dry in?
That's a great question. I have experienced times where I feel like I've lost something in being able to express myself. I know that slump or writer's block or whatever it is, but I do also, I think my pursuit in songwriting is never to get other people to listen to me. For me, like, some people are really great in front of people. They are meant to be on stage. I literally hated being on stage when I was a kid, and I had to learn how to perform. That was not an easy thing for me. So when I write a song, it's genuinely me wrestling with something. And I feel like when I approach the world with wonder, I look around and I think, man, there are so many songs that I want to write. And it's almost like I surf. I try and surf every day. If I could, I'd surf every day, and I don't surf to get I'd love to have an incredible ride where I accomplish some amazing moves and get barreled and do a, just some huge air at the end, but that's not why I go surfing. I surf because I enjoy the experience. I think songwriting for me is the same way, where I write a song to experience the wonder and to experience what it's like to just imagine and dream and think, what if, it's I feel like music and art and these things, it's your chance to co-sign God's blank checks. They're just sitting right there, and you got the checkbook. You just pull one out and see where you go.
I love that you use the word wonder. I think that in our culture and our society, we've been conditioned to know or to be able to figure out the answer. And that place of mystery and wonder is a great place to live in, but it's also a hard place to live in. So as you're constantly observing and questioning and processing, how do you know the ideas that go from an internal conversation into ones that this is a song that I need to share? This is a message that needs to be heard.
That's a great question. The question being, did I just say that out loud? I think I have an incredible group of people around me. My brother and my wife are two people that I bounce ideas off all the time. And certainly having my brother in the band, he's got a great ear for, thinking through, that's a song you should never play anyone, or whatever it is, because it is a funny, strange catch-22. You want to hear the most raw, intimate details of someone's life, but not really, like you could have left that out. So yeah, I think I rely heavily on my friends, my community, my wife, my brother.
And what's interesting about that is I look back through the albums and I look back through social posts and everything, doing the research, is that there's a consistency of the people around you. You mentioned your brothers in the band, but you've been playing with the same guys for a long time. You've invited other people into that sphere of creativity and music and creating along the way, but there's a consistency of like the people around you. And you see the turmoil that a lot of bands have, a lot of musicians have, a lot of creatives have, of trying to find their place. And in that, they lose friendships. You see the rockiness of marriage in a lot of artists and musicians, and broad stroke comments here, of course. Yeah. But for you, how have you been able to stay so consistent with the people around you? And how has that built a place of maybe safety, or maybe it's not safety, for you to explore the things that you question?
I think the people that are around me are very patient. That's first and foremost. But you mentioned like consistency. I'm thinking on this solo project, two of my best friends were the people that helped me produce it. Keith Tutt, who plays the cello with me, and Aaron Redfield, who plays the drums. I have known them for decades and played with them for years. And I think that is how trust is built. I've seen them through experiences, and we've traveled some ground together, and they've seen me through things that really, really tough, difficult seasons of life. And so I think that the bond that we share and the trust that I have in their musical decisions stretches far beyond that sphere. And to answer your question, I think it's just, they're incredibly patient with me. They're literally, that's the only good reason I could give.
I feel you on that. I wonder sometimes, I'm like, why are people sticking with me? I have crazy ideas. I say crazy things sometimes. And there is a safety of identity to know people accept you for who you are. And I wonder, and this is just an observation, if some of the things that you have written that have been so impactful may have never happened if you didn't have that safety, if you didn't have that community around you of people who just said, we see Jon, we see him for who he is, and we're going to go around on this ride with him. And it's going to be an amazing journey.
Yeah, my friend today said community means just showing up again and again. And I like that because it elicits something that's at once very easy to do and at the same time nearly impossible. And I do think that what we practice on a microcosm level is how we live in the world at large, you know. And I have seen it modeled for me by incredible people who've stuck with me, you know. And I think you're right that art, you know, you have to have some sort of stability from which that you can grab at something bigger, you know. And whether that's a group of friends, the Inklings, I'm thinking of C.S. Lewis and Tolkien, or any artistic movement, you know, you have all these painters that come together and have an idea and then go with the idea that it's almost like they're a band. They're approaching this new idea of paint with a similar context. That does ring true for me.
Departures, the first three songs that I've heard are deep and I think really poignant for the moment we've come out of or coming out of with when it comes to COVID. Hopefully we're getting towards the end of this thing with the question and the instability around some of the politics that is going on, with the questions of race and how we reconcile. There are a lot of questions going on. What is your hope for this album? What is it that you hope it pours into the ethos of America and the globe in this season?
Yeah. So you and I, we're both connected right now via these screens where I'm staring at a screen and talking to a screen. It's like it's like a crystal ball, right? And we all have these little crystal balls that can tell us a little bit of the future. They can tell us what's going on around the world. And I feel like they offer this pseudo community, you know, like, and I feel like the arts, the role of the arts, the role of conversation, the role of all these things that were kind of held back from during this season is to remind us of the commonality that we have. And so that this guy that you've been going back and forth with on Twitter, that, you know, he's got a wife and kids and might look different than you and might think different than you. But if you know, saw him next to you at the Springsteen concert, you both have your fists in the air and you remember, hey, we do have a lot in common, you know? Yeah. And so my hope for this album would be that it would remind all of us, myself included, of a deeper humanity that lies underneath even our differences. The next song that's coming out with Maddie Cunningham is a song called Side by Side. And it talks about how at the end of this life, we're all buried side by side, you know, that whether or not we see ourselves in this life that way, might want to make amends before we get to the other side, you know. And so that is my hope, is that this album would open the doors and the windows of the soul to something larger than a little screen that we stare at, and to be awakened to a larger reality.
You talk about that larger picture. You're coming out Departures as a solo project with a lot of contributors, a lot of friends that are coming along on the journey, but you also are the lead man of Switchfoot. So how do you view those different? Why do the solo albums when you have such a killer band? I mean, I love the solo albums, so I think you should keep doing them. Why have the two? What is it that doing a solo projects like Departures wouldn't allow you to do in Switchfoot and vice versa?
That's a good question. I think of Switchfoot, I mean, like you said, that there's Chad is a great drummer. Tim's a great bass player. We've got guitars and amps and Drew and Jerome and all these things. I feel like when there's a disco ball and a smoke machine and lights and pyro or something, it's really hard to have a song that feels like a confession. And so for me, I do feel like there are intimate, deeper songs that we sing as a band, but I feel like the solo album is much less of a megaphone and much more of a whisper. I think it started when we would be on tour. There used to be these things called concerts, and there'd be thousands of people. And after
I remember them vaguely.
You remember?
It's foggy, but I think I remember.
It was wild. I can't even think about how it happened now, but it did happen. And after the show, I would still want to play more music. I'd have more music left in me. And so I'd go in the parking lot, or the bar, or the coffee shop, or whatever was down the street. And I'd send out a tweet, whoever wants to come. I so cleverly named them after shows.
Yeah.
And I loved it. The after show became this way to just an acoustic guitar, just butcher a Bob Dylan song or play a new song that I'd never played anyone, And so that expression, I feel like, finds the completion of its longing in these solo albums, where it feels like it's me late at night here at the studio with an acoustic guitar trying to play the after show, albeit to myself. But there will be a day where thousands of people will once again congregate and listen to music.
Yeah, I'm so looking forward to those days. I miss concerts. I'm like longing for those moments of commonality, of shared moment, of shared experience. And like, I think back to a couple years ago, I saw Coldplay, and they brought a moment out where Michael J. Fox came out and he started doing all the stuff from Back to the Future. And that moment will be one that's shared with the 40, 60, 80,000 people at the giant stadium, but no one else will have that experience.
No.
For you, you do these shows time and time and time again. Do you feel like there's moments in each time you do these where you're just like, something special is going on here? Or do you feel like it just kind of gets monotonous?
No, I think that the job of someone who is alive is to notice the moment while you're in the moment. Mm. And I think that's hard to do. I mean, that's hard to do you're a dad. That's hard to do. You see a picture of your kid and you're like, oh man, if I could only go back, I remember that year or that moment. But sometimes in the moment you're like, why are you doing this? I feel like, I had the privilege of seeing Elliott Smith at a tiny place in Nashville. And right before he went on stage, the power went out because of an electrical storm. And so everyone's in the club, the promoter comes out on stage and without a microphone or anything, just says, everyone, calm down. We'll just sit here and see if the power comes back on. There's no lights. Everyone's just kind of standing in the dark talking. And then all of a sudden, Elliott Smith comes out with just an acoustic guitar and some candles. And I will never forget it for the rest of my life, because I realized that I had come to see a hero of mine be a hero, and that for a hero to be a hero, there has to be something that goes wrong.
Wow.
And so I take that into not just when I'm on stage, but off stage. Like, the only chance you get to be a hero in your life is when something goes wrong. So when I'm on stage and the power goes out or whatever, I try and see it as, okay, this is my chance to bring levity, to bring light, to bring some form of goodness to a moment that went wrong. And so that's always my goal, is to look for the moment.
You mentioned the after shows, and you see people post videos from them all the time. Well, you used to, when we actually had the after shows.
You have to have the show to get the after show, right?
Yeah. So like a year ago, Yeah. And there are these moments, like you said, it gave you a place to try new things, to have intimate moments and do that. You are accessible and love to connect with your fans in a way that you see very few musicians at your level do. Why is it so important to you to make sure that you're accessible like that? What is it that you feel like you get out of it and that they're getting out of it when you are available for them?
So there's a book called The Gift by Lewis Hyde, and it talks about the importance of keeping the gift in motion. It says that there's many of the phrases that we get in English even that talk about the gift. Oh, he's got a real gift, say music. He's really gifted. And the idea is, he talks about the idea that a gift is only a gift if you continue to give it. It's given to you and you keep it in motion. Talks about indigenous cultures and gift economy, that a good, you see it all over in ancient scripture and literature, and even with indigenous cultures today, the idea that someone who is the most important is the most giving.
Yeah.
And so for me, I see what I do for a living, it gets blurry because I get paid to do it. I get paid to play a show. And so that's not necessarily a gift anymore. And so for me, I see playing an after show in the parking lot as a way to continue to keep the gift in motion. That it's a chance to share a communal experience, that there was no ticket, there was no lights, no setup, no reason for it to exist other than a shared love of the moment, so that's kind of why I do it. I feel like it brings me closer to everything I love about music.
You have something really cool coming up at the end of January with Switchfoot that you're doing. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, we are live streaming from Petco Park, which is amazing. It's where the Padres play, and it's going to be a blast. I've seen, Paul McCartney and the Foo Fighters and Weezer and all sorts of people there. This particular live stream won't have anyone there because, of course, it's 2021. But I'm thrilled. We've been doing these live streams once a month, and our goal, we feel like our job as musicians is to bring people together. We're still going to try and do that even if we can't be in the same room. And so let's go on a journey. We played a live stream on a boat, played it in a cabin at the top of the woods, and now we're playing an MLB ballpark. We're thrilled. It's going to be amazing.
What was that call like? You call up the Padres office and you go, "Hey, we'd like to rent out your stadium to do a show to nobody. Can we make this work?"
Yeah, we said, "Hey, you guys aren't doing anything, are you? It's just sitting there, right? Okay, yeah. You mind if we borrow it for the day?"
So stinking cool. And that's called the fantastic Not Traveling Music Show that you've been doing. And this is the continuation of that.
Yeah, we've done, I think, 6 or 7 of those. Again, I think music plays an important role in my life. And we're just trying to see, how can we continue to keep hope and music and community together? I feel like that has a role, and we're going to try our best to do it, even if it's through a little screen,
Love it. And it's been fun to watch these. You did a great one over Christmas where you did, what did you call it? Let's see here. I have the notes here. COVID caroling. And
yes.
That was super fun.
Yeah, that was a blast. And again, trying to say, okay, well, there's a lot of things we can't do this year, but what can we do that we would never do otherwise? There's a Hemingway quote that has been my mantra for the year. Now is no time to think of what you do not have. Think of what you can do with what there is. And that is our season. That's from The Old Man and the Sea. And I feel like Hemingway perfectly summed up 2021, the season we're living in.
Yeah. We're going to take a break right here, but when we come back, it's rapid fire questions. There are a lot of exciting things happening in 2021 here at Jumblethink, and we want you to be a part of it. So how do you stay in the loop, up to date, and in touch? Head on over to jumblethink.com where you can find and sign up for our email newsletter. You can also find those links to Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter right there on the page. So let's become friends. Let's do this journey of chasing dreams and ideas together, and let's change the world together in 2021. Now let's jump into rapid fire questions.
Levez seulement le bras pour mettre l'aiguille sur le disque. Mettez le contact, reposez votre bras et attendez. Restez calme pendant un moment.
Well, I want to pivot here and dive into a couple rapid fire questions as we wrap up today's conversation. Typically, we asked this earlier on in the conversation, but I wanted to hold it to the end. You have been doing this for a long time, and often we lose our purpose along the way. But how are you finding purpose in what you do?
That's a great question. I think you continually have to refine your purpose and your motivation. I think when you're talking about the substrate of meaning that you're resting your entire life on, and if you're not careful, that can be defined by others.
Yeah.
Your manager or your booking agent or your wife or your best friend or whoever it is, well-intending can say, "Oh, I can't believe it. You did this thing." And as cool as that thing is, or as important as that thing is, if it's not the ultimate purpose of your life and your foundation shifts onto that, it can be a really dangerous road. I have felt that because I feel like we've experienced forms of success that are harder to navigate than when no one cares. You know what I mean? I think it's a really interesting thing that, I don't know. I feel like that question is a, I know you wanted a short answer, but I feel like that's a coffee shop, hour long, how do you stay focused kind of thing. I think it definitely centers on community though. Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm just going to say this real quick. If people are hearing thumping, my girls are jumping upstairs. Usually I don't do this in the afternoon here, so not sure what they're doing, but I'm getting some kind of dancing show above me. So
I love it. Bring it. I say if you're dancing and it's 2021, bring it. Come on. Let's keep that dancing going.
What's one challenge you're currently working to overcome?
I think this season has brought up so many questions and shifting my focus that I really want. I'm kind of redefining what it means to this next season means, and I really want to do that. With a lot of prayer and meditation, fear and trembling. Like, okay, who am I for the next 10 years? I think that's the thing I'm wrestling with.
Well, that leads to the next question. What's the next big dream, idea, or goal that you have?
Well, the two that are underway are a solo project, which is coming out in a couple weeks, a few tracks out already, and a Switchfoot project, which is coming out in a couple months. Okay. So those are the two, that's the close proximity. And then down the road, I would love to write a book. Okay. That's been a big dream of mine.
Super cool. As a child, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Civil engineer.
Okay. That came out of nowhere.
My grandpa was a civil engineer,
Okay.
So it's like, yeah, you could design streets and bridges and sewer systems. It's going to be great.
What's one tip you'd give someone with a big idea or dream and they don't know where to start?
I think finding like-minded people who can help you chase that dream and hold your feet to the fire and help you along the way. I think that would be the first place to go.
What's one change you'd like to see in the world?
G.K. Chesterton, in response to what's wrong with the world, famously replied, "Dear sirs and madam, I am."
Oh, wow.
So I feel like that's where it always has to begin.
What do you want your legacy to be?
legacy is a weird one. I don't know that I want. I mean, I think about my family. I think that's really where I would love to be known as being a great dad.
Where do you find inspiration?
Everywhere. Literally everywhere. I think for me, I see the world with wonder. And if you start to wonder and question and have ideas, for me, it opens everything.
What's one book you think every dreamer should read?
The War of Art.
Okay.
Would be a good one. And maybe Franny and Zoe, because it's on the top shelf up there. That's another good one. The whole book is really dark right until the end, and then the end is just that. Yes, that's where it all comes together.
For you, how do you define success?
Success would be living out my created purpose.
Yeah.
I think for me, I have 3 goals. I want to reflect and receive the love of my maker. Mm-hmm. That'd be one. It's a sneaky one. And then the second would be to be a good father and to be a good husband. That's my top 3. That's success.
That's so on point. I think that ambition is a good thing, but it can also lead us into a dangerous place. And to have our eyes focused at the right markers of success, like you have there, it really keeps us grounded in where we should be.
It's odd. Many of my heroes were surf bums and musicians that no one knows. And if you have the goal of having a car that's all one color and socks that match and name brand this and that, I feel like that is directly contradictory towards art in many ways. And I feel like if you can free yourself from that, then suddenly success becomes defined by much more tangible, earthy terms that are actually sustainable.
What's one trend you are currently excited about?
The idea that people can make music in their house, in their bedroom, and it sounds really good. I love that. I love the creativity and people making lemonade out of lemons all over 2021. I think it's a beautiful thing.
What's one habit that's helpful in your life?
I go to this one rock down at the beach every night, most nights, and sit there and meditate and pray. And that habit is probably the best thing I do all day.
What's one thing you wish you would have known when you first started out?
That I'd be doing it 20 years later.
So you never imagined that what started out as, well, even before Legend of Chin and that album, you started out with your brother with, I'm blanking.
Etc. It was called Etc.
Yeah. And you never had an envision, like you just thought, oh, this is going to be something cool. You never thought it was actually going to turn into something this massive or sustained?
Never in a million years. I never thought of music as an occupation.
Yeah.
Like even now, I play for free. I get paid to get on an airplane, which I apparently don't get paid that much these days. But all of my heroes were like literally people in local bands that would play backyards and have day jobs. And so I just thought that's what a musician is. That's what I want to be a musician when I grow up. I want to work at the record store and play in backyards. That's kind of what I thought. So I still am floored that I get to like do this for a life.
It's pretty cool.
It's a gift. I'm so thankful.
Yeah. If you weren't doing what you're doing today, what do you think you'd be doing?
I think I'd be teaching. I really do love seeing people learn. I love seeing the light bulbs come on. And because I've had some good teachers, and I feel like I could pay it forward.
Yeah. And our final rapid fire question: what is one dream you're still wanting to fulfill in your own life?
I think the book. That's the dream, to get it out there.
Now, there's a question I haven't asked that's really important. It's going to be in the episode notes. It's going to be in the intro. But can you tell people how they can find this album, find the January 31st show at Petco? How can they connect with you? What are the best ways to do that?
Yeah, so the music that I'm releasing, Departures, you can listen to it on Spotify or Amazon or iTunes or whatever DSP you like. You can go to jonforeman.com and or connect with me on Instagram or Twitter or whatever. For Switchfoot, the live stream, just go to switchfoot.com, and that's going to be super fun. We have another one that I can't talk about that's coming out in February that we're going to be working on that I'm thrilled about as well. So yes, please chase down switchfoot.com or jonforeman.com. And I can't wait to share the rest of the record.
As we wrap up, we always like to leave our guests have a final thought. What do you want to leave us all with today?
We have a mantra as a band that feels appropriate in all times, including these wild times we're living in, which is life is short, live it well. And that would be probably a thing I would like to speak and be spoken to me many times to remind myself of that.
Jon, I said at the beginning, I'm a big fan of your music. I love the solo stuff, and I love Switchfoot. I have been a big fan for a long time. So it's been an honor to have you on, to hear a little bit about what you're working on. Thanks so much for taking time out to chat with us.
Oh, thank you, Michael. Thank you so much for your time. Yeah. And I hope to hang out in your basement sometime.
Yeah, let's do it.
We'll try out those skis.
That sounds good. Thanks. Once again, I want to thank today's guest, Jon Foreman, for joining us on the show. His new album, Departures, comes out February 12th, and the fantastic Not Traveling music show travels to Petco Park January 31st. You can check that out streaming. The links to both of those are in the episode notes. Go check it out. I think you're going to love it. I want to thank you for tuning into today's show. It means the world to me that you would listen. And I hope today's conversation has encouraged you and challenged you to think a little bit differently about creativity, community, and about music. But now it's your turn. We believe you were created for something awesome, that your dreams and ideas matter, that you are significant. But to reach that dream, to make those ideas reality, you have to take some risk. So get out there, dream big, and change the world around you.
Mais complètement. En avant, en arrière, sur les côtés. Vous êtes une autre personne. Les mères de famille, les enfants, peuvent également prendre un moment revitalisant. Dans quelques mois, lorsque vous aurez bien saisi la technique et que vous serez maître de votre corps, vous pourrez vous décontracter même en travaillant.